Welcome to SNL.
Yeah.
We are not in a weird mood today at all.
Let's just put that out there.
Just warning you ahead of time. So hello to everybody.
Yes, we cannot be held responsible for anything,
that comes out of our mouth. It's
we lost the filter.
It got lost at some point. Not sure where it is or if we will ever find it again.
True.
So it popped up that we were going to do part 2, and I'm like, part 2.
She's counting.
And then I went, dos, two. And then we start giggling, and you guys know what happens when we start giggling, and
it's all over.
It went downhill from there.
Yeah, it's all over.
It just happens.
Yes. So it's Tuesday.
We actually did not have this conversation yet, so I don't know the answers to this question. What did you do this weekend?
I attempted to embroider.
Oh,
right.
I do know this answer, not because I asked the question, but I do know this answer.
I'm all set, right? My spring showers is cut out. My pieces are fused.
Ready to go.
I'm all ready to go. I opened the drawer where the stabilizer is usually
supposed to be,
and I said bad words.
Nothing.
I'm like, this is why I stopped in the middle of my last project. It all came clear then. Yeah. I totally had forgotten that I ran out of no-show mesh. I have a billion other stabilizers, but I did not have any. I had some fusible no-show mesh, which I just did not want to.
You didn't want to waste the pennies?
Well, it's not so much that, but I have a love-hate relationship. It's mostly hate with fusible no-show mesh. And I knew that there would be some ironing going on this. And I was afraid
so it would fuse in spots and not fuse in others. And then you would have a problem.
And I wouldn't like how it looked, even though the batting is going to be there. I just thought, this is since I don't do well with double fusibles, I thought perhaps this is not smart.
It was
for me.
A sign.
It was a sign. So I
do something else.
Right.
So what else did we do?
I cleaned up the mess.
You called the store and the phone rang as soon as we started SNL.
Then I decided that I would clean up the scraps and stuff and tidy up because I was all ready to start embroidering. And I sent Dave a text and I was like, do I drive in? It was 9:30 yesterday morning when I realized that he's like, no. I'm like, do you want to stop and grab me some? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, I'll just go pull something out for dinner. So
today we shall cook.
And so, yeah, then I kind of went through the freezer and that went the sewing part.
So I worked a little later last night trying to get a few things done. I have all of my squares stitched for spring showers, and I have my corner blocks stitched. So all I have left are the borders and the sashing type pieces left. And I was doing the 3D pieces that are embroidered and done in the hoop. I was finishing those up and working on scan and cut. And so I was here till 7. And I was like, Tony was talking to me about Crumbles cookies and how they have all these really good looking cookies this week. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just go get cookies and I'll bring them in tomorrow. So I tried ordering them and they weren't accepting online orders. That should have been a sign to me not to bother, but that didn't click in any part of my brain. That just didn't click. So I drove over there. It's not that far from here.
Right.
And I'm like, well, the parking lot's really full. And I look, the lobby was packed. I mean, standing room only. And there's a sign on the door that says maximum of 10. There was way more than 10 people in there. So I'm like, well, there's already 25 plus people in here. What's one more? So I walk in there and I go up to the screen and I'm like, wow, it's crazy. And the guy's like, just to let you know, they're 2 hours behind. I was like, oh, so we're not going to get cookies. Maybe another day this week, I will run over there and try to get cookies.
The whole
Valentine's Day cookies.
Yeah.
Evidently, it just didn't click that was a thing for Valentine's Day. I don't know why that didn't register in my brain. So sorry. There was no cookies this morning.
Yeah, my dad, he bought me flowers, and so on Friday it was a thing, right? They didn't want to leave them outside, so we went and picked them up, and that was great. And then,
that's what you got a phone call, but I didn't know what it was for.
Yeah, that's what it was. They didn't want to leave the flowers outside, so we went to pick them up, and I have the vase and the cat. He's so determined to get the flowers. He's at a jumper on the counter or anything. So I spent like 3 or 4 times yesterday. I tried to
Moving
find
it.
a place, and
A happy home.
yes, he is just he's like on a mission of like wherever I look, everywhere I look, he looks like he's trying to launch an attack. You know, he's like scurrying down, and his like little butt is wiggling, and like he's
Ready to
trying
pounce.
to see if he can get up that far. I don't have a shelf that's tall enough. And so I mean, they smelled really good. So I'm assuming if I can
If
smell
you could
them,
smell it, then
he must
that makes
really
sense.
be. He must really like the smell of carnations.
Really funny. I'm
So-
getting caught on the Velcro. I'm like, wait a minute. There.
Yes.
So thank you, Marge. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I
It
got
isn't-
this at Novi.
a couple years ago.
It's been quite a few years now.
Yeah.
2
Yeah, not
years.
this past one.
2 years before they closed. So it was not this one, not last year,
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't one last year, and then it wasn't the year before that. It was
The year
the year
before.
before that.
Yes.
So what is that? 4
Mm-hmm.
long time
I
ago.
think that was our first year together.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So,
So yeah.
but thank you. Very warm. I actually had to take it off earlier. I have a thermacare. I really should buy stock in that. I have a thermacare patch on, and I just have a because I knew it was warm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wearing a tank, and I was over there, and I was like, "Whoa. Okay." Took the jacket off. Wow, this must be
Yeah.
what Sarah feels like every day.
Every day.
Not that I have any concept of that in a regular scenario, but yeah. So
Extra tape over here.
interesting.
I
But
think
yeah.
the other day I went to sit down at the machine that I covered the light up with the tape. It's still
It's
I
still
didn't
got
get all
tape
over
on
there.
it?
Yeah. So
That-
that reminded me. I think I walked over there a couple of times to get rid of it and couldn't remember why I walked over there. So tape. Should put it on my
Yes.
nose, then I'll remember.
Then you would remember. It's the forehead. That's takes the
could
shine off
see
the
that one.
forehead.
So
But yeah, so
yeah.
that was my last night. And then I drove home with no cookies.
no
I
cookies.
contemplated baking cookies because then I had it in my head that I wanted a cookie.
Cookie.
But I was good, and I didn't make any cookies, and I didn't even have any snack or anything bad for me last night. I was just stay away.
Yeah. We didn't do anything special.
No.
But we don't usually, so that wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, I looked to see where Jeff was working because he travels. He's got 4 stores, and I'm like, okay, if he's at any of the 2 that are close by, I'll just surprise him and show up with something, whether it's a taco from Taco Bell or who knows what. But
Right? Could be Taco Monday.
yeah, no, he was
Way far away.
far away, so unfortunately, he didn't get that. Sorry. So I called my kids, talked to them, then went home, and I worked on my computer. I didn't sew last night. Sewed this weekend, and watched the Super Bowl.
I did not watch the Super Bowl. I watched something. I was watching. I told you a
Yeah.
stupid program.
That's okay. So that's what we did this weekend.
Yeah.
Don't know if you guys got any sewing in, but
New week.
new week, new project, maybe. Who knows?
Yes.
We are pretty much through the first round of spring showers orders,
Mhm.
and we have stack of new kits working their way towards
Almost
completion.
done.
We're waiting again. We got the first ones completed. Now we're waiting again on more fabric for the second round of kits.
Mhm.
But if you are waiting, we'll let you know as soon as we have those few in. If you are waiting to hear about threads, the threads are in.
Mhm.
So we do have thread sets for spring showers. If you are looking for one, they are very reasonable. You get 12 spools for only $33. So very, very reasonably priced. You need to add black and white if you choose to. You could probably get away without, but I did. I used a black instead of the dark gray in a couple spots, and I used the white, not really for stitching, but for quilting.
And we will do a stitch along, but it probably won't be next week because next week is club, and I do not want to set up I don't want to set up twice.
No?
So I'm doing Surgers again, so
Yeah.
that we can get on an opposite schedule.
So we repeated so that we wouldn't have to continue moving all of the machines around.
Yeah.
So that Sarah and I will be doing sewing and embroidery in the same month so that the machines won't have to shift. And then sergers and
Scan and cut.
Scan and cut will be. And we
It's
will
one
look
thing
at
to move the
we
cameras.
will, right, absolutely. We will look at future dates
Mhm.
for digital dealer.
Yeah.
But this month we're going to move it, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Yeah, we're going to go
tomorrow.
early. We're going to go tomorrow. So if you didn't see that, we are going to do digital dealer exclusives for February tomorrow at 3:00.
Mhm.
So hi, Dad. So we will. We're going to move that up so that we're not in the middle of clubs and crazy and again having to move machines. That's for us. Sorry, guys, not for you.
Yes.
Totally because of
Totally,
our
yes.
oh, that was really smart.
Yeah.
We moved things and then still shot ourselves in the foot. So we're moving them again.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to continue on settings. So that was a big plus. I think a lot of people got some information.
Yeah.
And we're going to do basically touchscreen style machines.
Yep.
So
the little guy that you see next to us there, look at that. I even got the right direction. Where am I going to point? That little guy right over there is a 6x10 embroidery machine, combo machine. And so there's sewing screens. The sewing screen is what you see right there. But the screen that Sarah has in front of her is going to be the Luminaire. So we're literally going to run the gamut between all of the touchscreen machines. So we'll talk about those. The one that I'm sitting in front of is the 3700, which is the equivalent of the
Vesta.
Sure. I can never remember which one's
Yeah,
which.
Vesta.
The Vesta, which is the Babylock Vesta, that is the combo machine, 6x10 there. So if you are looking at the Flare or the Vesta or the 1700 or the 3700, the embroidery aspects anyways are going to be the same as what we see here, and then on up from there.
And
so
previous models, Adventura, Adventura 2, Flourish 2, 1600,
actually
1400,
14,
15,
16, and 7. There's no 15.
No, 15.
Nope.
Okay. So basically, if you had a 6x10 style, actually, the screen is the same here, but really 4x4, 5x7, all of our embroidery
all of those are
machines,
going to be the same setting type
yes,
pieces here. So the screens will all flow the same.
Mhm.
You just pick up a little bit more in settings as you move up the line.
Right.
So we'll talk about the variances and maybe where a button might be different on different machines. So we'll kind of try to throw that in. And there's a few cool features on the machine that I'm sitting in front of that aren't on anything else until you get all the way up top. So we'll talk about that real quick too. Just as a little, hey, did you know?
Yes, but we sold a ton of these at
sure
Novi and
Since.
So we really wanted to let you guys in on
See
some
how
of the
that one-
cool new features that are on there.
Yeah.
That's right. If you're looking for a baby machine or
maybe a
portable travel machine,
if you do a lot of retreats or classes, and maybe you have a Luminaire or a Solaris or a Dream or one of those big guys that you kind of go, oh, I hate loading that. I love taking it, but I hate loading it. This has a lot of really great features in it that are going to be very reminiscent of that top of the line machine, but it's going to be in a smaller package. So
some of your favorite features are compatible with this machine. So it feels like you have
good thing we got new wipes because
your big machine. So
there's a big old blur in there, but that's okay.
Go to this machine first. This is the one that Lisa is sitting in front of, and this is that 3700. And so, there's actually, is that an update available?
It looks like there is. So we're not going to do the update live, but just so that you guys can see, there are still buttons below. So we still have some touch buttons down here, a back air button, a sewing menu here, a embroidery menu here, which if I tap that, you'll see the embroidery home screen. Tapping this takes you to the sewing home screen. And then our settings button is down here. So it's not up on screen here. Those are down here, but we do have arrows here, but lots of stuff is going to be touch screen up here where it's not. It's going to look very similar to some of the sewing stuff that we looked at last week. But it is touch screen where the sewing stuff that we saw last week, it's not.
And so we don't really ever get the opportunity to do an update live. But maybe after we're done with your portion of the settings, we can show them.
We can show
how
that,
to do
and then
that.
when we switch, and then we can come back to
And
it.
we can come back so you guys can see
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
easy it is to do an update. It really is super easy.
It really is. So one of those things that is super special about this series, whether it be a Babylock or a Brother, is that it's wireless. So these little bars that you see right here are the symbol that you see on your phones and all of
That's
that.
your
So that is
Wi-Fi.
that Wi-Fi symbol there. So it has a wireless feature that you can transfer designs from your computer directly into the machine. So that is super nice. A lot of you guys struggle with putting your designs onto a USB. So that is one piece that you can just go click, boom, hit the arrow on your computer screen and it shows up right in the machine. So that is one piece there. The automatic wireless updating is really nice. I absolutely love that on my Luminaire. So that is a really nice feature there as well. And then the updating that we're going to show you here in a little bit. So that is one of those new features there.
So
I just wanted to back out and show you those down here. So this is where the settings is, right down here at the very bottom, right above my name, right down there. You can see my fingernail there. So that is that settings tab, the piece of paper with that top turned down corner. And now I'm going to zoom back in on the actual screen.
Yeah,
so
the
you guys
icon
can
is the
see that.
same.
It's the same thing. It's in the same place. I just wanted to show you what they were before we got out of it.
Absolutely.
So you can see where it's at. So when we hit that settings button that I was just showing you, these are going to look very similar to what we saw on that sewing machine that we were looking at last week. But a little bit of a difference is I have touchscreen capabilities here instead of having to use those arrows down below. So it's a lot easier to manipulate the machine. I don't have to figure out which button am I supposed to push,
which row of arrows,
which row of arrows and which direction of arrow goes to which. I literally have everything right here. So this little icon over here says what type of setting that it is. So right now I am in there and I can scroll through my pages. Those I do need to go down below and use those arrows. So I can scroll through these. So
and you can see the pages.
Top.
There you go. Yeah.
So I still, because I know it's touchscreen, I still sometimes
try that. Yeah.
I still try that every now and then. It still doesn't work. It won't ever. So this does not change pages. You do have to hit those arrows down below the screen to change pages. We talked about all of these settings last week, so I don't want to recover how those work because we already did that.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what any of those are, watch last week. I'll try not to keep doing that with my hand. So sorry. But the access to changing them is much more simple on here. So when we go in to change those, we just have to hit those very simple pieces. Oh, look at that. Very, very easy to toggle through things instead of, like we said, having to find which arrow goes to what. But again, to change pages, we are using those right below the screen. So initial position, we have whichever one is darkened on screen here. So if I wanted to begin in center needle, I could just tab that one and then it would turn on and go into my sewing screen. It would select a center needle position stitch automatically just by changing that. So that would be like stitch number 3 instead of stitch number 1.
Yep.
That's literally what that button does. That's it right there. And then we talked about these. The black box there is, again, going to be our default, just like it is on every other machine. That is what's going to indicate that. But one more time, we don't have to find arrows. We can very easily plus and minus our way through our ability to change that. So pivoting height, we did have before, automatic fabric sensor system. So we talked about that last week and it was called something different.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, we have different names for different things depending upon whether we're necessarily in a Brother or a Babylock. But that fabric sensor system is literally going to change the system settings based on what you're putting underneath your foot. And it's funny, this one's off as well. Must be because we're the ones using these. What do you think?
I think maybe so.
Think maybe so. So again, we did cover all of these. This little guy right here is a new setting. This is something that is offered on these new versions of the 6x10. So if you have an older version of a 6x10 machine, this screen is not in your settings. This is one of those really awesome things, which I think is great.
It is great.
So it literally is exactly what it sounds like. It automatically raises and up and down your presser foot. So you can see that picture there. And we also have that auto press to trim. So we have that. What did it do?
It went to sleep.
Oh, no.
I think.
We didn't change that.
There we go.
We got a new camera. So we're hoping that nothing's bad is going. I thought maybe with the power plugged in that it wouldn't do that, but maybe
it did. But it's awake now. So
okay, good.
We should be okay.
Let's hope that everything still shows up like we want it to.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Right.
over
I
there?
saw a flash and I was like, what's going on?
It wasn't my hand this time.
No.
So all of that wonderfulness. So we've got our hoop settings here. So we didn't have a sewing. We had only sewing, last week. So this is the ability to see the outside line of a different hoop, and we can scroll through that different hoop size. So the maximum hoop on this machine is 6x10, which is that outside line that we saw here. I'm now showing a 5x7 size, which is this guy inside of that 6x10. So I like personally the 5x7. That is my default, if you will. I lovingly call that the ghost frame because it allows you to pass through it when you're editing, but it still gives you an edge. So you know where you can go and where you can't go until you get all the way forward to the last screen. You can pass through it, which is why I call it a ghost frame. That's not Brother's thing. That's just a Lisa thing. But it allows you to change what you see there based on these guys here. So Sarah will show you a difference when you get all the way up there and some easier ways to do this on the other machines, because I literally will scroll all the way through those different hoop sizes before I can get back to my original size. I'm just going to push arrows until I get there. Still pretty simple. I'm just toggling through. And then this one here is, what do I want the inside of that to be? I personally, again, this is my favorite. Maybe I was the last one that played on here. Who knows? But you can change what you see inside on your embroidery screen. So do you want to see a complete crosshair? I like that tiny little crosshair in the center. It shows me where center is, but it doesn't overwhelm what's going on in the hoop and block my view of my other things that I've got in there. You can have smaller grid. So lots of options here. You can have nothing at all. But again, my favorite is that little red guy. Just tells me the center, so I know exactly where that is without being super distracting on whatever else that it is that I'm doing. So those are my personal Frit. What do you do?
It varies. I typically don't put a ghost frame on, so I usually just have the biggest one, and I will toggle between basically the little red or grid, depending on how much stuff I'm putting, what you're doing, and how you need to space it. Right. I do like to pile stuff into my big hoop.
No.
Right. There's a big surprise there, and so at least then I can kind of make sure that
how far they are away.
Right. Right. You're not going too close together.
So when you say pile things in, you're putting multiple designs in your large hoop so that you're getting multiple things done at one time.
Yeah.
And you use the grid to make sure that you have enough space in between each design.
Yes.
For your applique or whatever it happens to be.
Right.
You're using that grid space
to be evenly spaced apart, because from experience I've learned that just because I can get two pieces close together, sometimes that
doesn't mean that you have enough space in the hoop to actually complete that design.
Right. And or I can't get it apart later on, or it draws up too much. So
it pulls in and then it throws off the one next to it.
Exactly. Yep. So I like to try to leave like a half an inch between different pieces and parts. I'm really bad about doing that with freestanding lace designs. Like I would just as soon put like 4 layers of stabilizer in there and put 27 hours of designs in.
And to clarify, you can do that, but what do you use in the hoop to make it so that you don't have a lot of drawing in?
Lots of extra stabilizer.
And what type of stabilizer?
I use like Badge Master and or water
multiple
soluble
layers of that standard mesh.
Yes.
Water soluble.
So I like to
make that Badge Master, and you generally put that one on top, right?
Unless it's an applique that goes on top, but sometimes I make a sandwich with it, so I put it on the top and the bottom. Okay. And then I put the regular layer in between. And if I've really got my jumbo hoop, then I would add a 4th layer. So I would basically do 2 and 2, kind of alternating them. So, I'm not necessarily saving stabilizer. I'm literally just
saving time of I'm
time.
putting it in there and I'm getting it done.
Right. And then I just have to, I just have to stop to change my bobbin thread or whatever. And then I can go about doing what I want to do. But I'm terribly bad about putting way more than a normal person would do there.
Which is why I wanted to have this conversation. I just wanted to make sure somebody didn't hear. I put a whole bunch of stuff in my hoop.
With lots of extra stabilizer.
And then go and say, well, Sarah did it.
Yeah.
It worked for.
Yes.
You have to prep for that.
Yes.
FYI. Oops, I'm sorry. My jacket got caught again. I'm sorry. But yeah, so if you do that, it's okay. But you do have to support that.
That's right.
With lots and lots of stuff.
Right. The more stitches, the more support you need.
The more stitches, the more stabilizer we're talking about.
Yeah.
So absolutely make sure that you are equally adding.
Yes, for sure.
Add more stitches, add more stabilizer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is just some different options and ways that you can use that changing piece. I very often will get rid of the 5x7, but if I'm going to leave one there, it's usually the 5x7 is what I would leave there, because that's if it's not huge hoop, that's my most commonly used hoop.
Yeah. Normal people use that hoop. I definitely don't put myself in that same category.
I find that
I don't do normal things.
I find that unfortunately a lot of my time is spent doing things for work. And those are a lot of Kimberbell and those kind. So that 5x7 hoop is used quite often, which is why it's my most common.
It definitely is.
But I definitely multi-hoop as well. So you would be so proud of me. I've used so many magnetic hoops in the last little bit. Hey, getting there. It's tough, but I
think I need a 6x6 embroidered magnetic hoop. I think I decided that while I was not embroidering.
While you were not embroidering, that you needed to add to the repertoire.
I decided I didn't have an appropriate size
I've used 5x7. I've used a couple. I actually used the magnetic in my multi-needle too. Ooh. I know, scary, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, 6x10 and an 8x8. Mm-hmm. I'm getting down with magnetic.
Yeah, I had some little pieces of like no-show mesh left that was not usable. And the cool thing, the designs that I wanted to do would have fit in the 6x6 hoop, but they would not have fit in the 5x7 hoop. And my stabilizer wasn't big enough for the 6x10 hoop. So
that's why you need a 6x6.
I'm gonna run out of stabilizer again.
That's fantastic.
So
okay,
to get creative and be prepared.
So some newer settings are going to be embroidery that we didn't have last week because we were on a sewing machine. So threads are important when we're in embroidery. So we've got the choicing of how do we want to see that? Do we want to see red, dark red, pink, light pink,
mauve?
No, you don't usually see mauve. Still, of course, you would know all the colors of pink, wouldn't you? Makes perfect sense, doesn't it, guys? Or do you want to actually see color number 100, color number 600, color whatever it happens to be? 10 for white, 20 for black, or
whatever brand
800 and 900, or whatever it happens to be. Do you want to see the color number, or do you want it to say white and black? That's what that guy is right there. So you get to choose what you see coming up on screen.
I wanted to say a number. What do you want?
It varies. It depends on how many color stops is am I talking like 4 or 6 shades of a color? Then I want to see a color number so I can differentiate between the 4 shades of blue or whatever, because I would never have 4 shades of pink. But if there's multiples, I definitely like the number. If it's just going to be a pink, I don't care if it tells me a number, because I'm going to pick the pink that I want.
For some reason, in my mind, it's easier for me to ignore the color if it's a numerical name.
Oh, so you mean I don't want pink, I'm putting purple in.
Right. Like
I have no problem doing it my way.
Like my brain is like, well, should that be a shade of pink? And which
it sees the word pink, and therefore your brain says you probably should put a pink in of some sort.
It makes me wonder why. Like, would it look better in their colors? So there's some part of me that it's like a subliminal message to me, but numerical numbers don't do that.
I find that very interesting that you would listen to something.
I don't. It's just like
there is actually something that makes her think she should follow directions.
Maybe, but you see, I don't keep it on there, so I don't want to be tempted. Which is
why she doesn't want to be tempted to follow direction.
That's right.
I actually generally will leave it on name of color, unless I'm doing something that has like 42 color stops and I need to know what color goes where.
Yeah. And
then I would follow that. Like when I was doing the cherry blossoms and there were this pink after that pink, because God forbid I actually did those freaking pinks, because it looks good in pink. Even I say it looks good in pink. But there was multiple shades of pink in there, and if I didn't put the right pink in at the right time,
it does make a difference.
Black 1 didn't match black 4, so it really made a difference. I needed to know the color number, so it does make a difference to me what I'm doing. I don't necessarily leave it alone.
That's fair.
I know, hard answer. Sorry, guys. And then this guy underneath of it is the type of thread. So you actually have many types of and brand is what I mean by type. So there's many different brands that are in there. So embroidery or the original is going to be like your brother. So that is the default on either a Babylock or Brother. That is going to be your defaulted and what it comes on when you open it out of the box. That is what it's going to be there. And when we get to the threads, I'll pop that open. You guys can see the difference of what that actually means, because it does definitely make a difference of what's going to happen when you pull up colors in there. And then speed. We've talked about speed before. Both Sarah and I.
Go fast.
Whatever your max speed is, which is what your default is going to be, it will be that.
If I could turn it higher.
If it could go higher, we would go higher. All right. Your machines will slow down when they need to slow down. So 100% full speed ahead. That's both of our opinion. So there you go.
Even with 97 things in my hoop.
Even with 97 things in your hoop. It is very rare for me to slow something down unless I am working with a finicky thread and I know that I'm putting some crappy thread in my machine and it's going to fight me all the way.
Yep.
I will slow it down because the thread can't take how awesome my machine is.
I'll try it at full speed.
Oh, I try it.
Like many times, more times than I should.
Well, unfortunately, I have this little stash of thread that I bought back when I had a baby machine that gave me problems in the baby machine that I put it in a real machine.
It really gives you grief.
And it really gives me grief. So I know even slow, it's going to break. So is it doing it again? Oh dear. I need to talk faster. Okay. Embroidery tensions. That is exactly what it sounds like. You probably won't need to change those much. Embroidery foot down. This is the wow, guys, right here. This is the bomb. This is not, you've heard us talk about this on the Luminaire and the Solaris. This is not having to put the foot down before you hit go.
Right.
This is one less button every time you have a color change, guys, right there. Bam. Awesomeness.
That will save you so much time.
Yep. This is being able to change what your screen looks like. So if
Background.
you have your backgrounds, yep,
Mhm.
you bet. So if you have a design that some reason the designer put it in all white thread, you're not going to be able to see it on a white screen. So you could change the background color and boom, you'd be able to see your design.
Mhm.
Thumbnail size, that is
It
exactly
should be bigger.
what it sounds
Mhm.
like. And it unfortunately is never large enough.
No,
So
don't
leave it
make
on
that
large,
small.
guys. Leave it on large. Inches versus millimeters. Those are your options.
Mhm. And just to clarify, no matter how hard you try, the sewing side of your machine
Will
is
always be
always
in
going to be in millimeters. This does not change that.
Nope. This is
we
for embroidery.
embroidery only.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. We talked about these needle up, needle down, the beeps, opening screen. So the little
Mm-hmm.
screensaver type doodad.
Yes.
We talked about this too. Please don't choose Japanese because you think that would be fun to see what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck finding it to turn it back to English. The lights on and off, and then how hard you have to push a button. You can adjust that as well. How many stitches that we have stitched since our last time we had it serviced, because Tony can reset that number. Total number of stitches. So this machine hasn't had too many. Obviously, 200,000 is nothing.
Mm-mm.
And then what software version we're running, and then your machine's number. This is not your serial number. So if you go to iBroidery and you want to buy a design, you need to know that number. That is the number they're going to ask you. And then wireless on. So we've already done this, obviously. This is just like every other setup wizard in the world. You walk through there, it looks for whatever is out there. You hit whichever one is yours, and then you type in your password.
Yes.
And then you can change this. A lot of people like to name their machine. When you look for a machine in your wireless to transfer, that's what it's going to find. So if you want to come up with some funny name, or maybe it's just, Lisa's Luminaire or Lisa's 3700 or whatever you want to name it, or you can call it Shirley, or isn't it Don't Call Me Shirley? What is that?
No.
Don't Call Me Late for Dinner?
Yeah.
There's something about Shirley, but I don't know what it is.
Don't
Anyway.
tell Bruno.
I can't remember. Different conversation. We're going to skip that. And then check for updates. This is that wireless update guy. All right. So this is the latest version available. And you saw on that previous screen that we are only at 1.00 on the machine right now. So there is a new update available. And that's what it's telling us right now. And then we're back to our original screen. So we're going to go ahead and check. It's going to look and it's going to say, hey, look at that. We are right there. So I'm going to go back a page. Where is it at on here?
It's out of the settings.
It's this one.
Yep.
Nope, that comes
And then,
in here.
okay.
So when we go to do an update, it's the foot down, I think, on this one. We're going to turn the machine off. I haven't done this in a really long time.
That was the needle up down. Either work.
Is it
It's
the
either-
needle up down?
Well, it'll either work or it won't.
Well, give us a second. We'll figure it out. All right. So I was holding in my foot down button, and it still wants it on a USB.
Mm-mm. What happens if you hit load?
Connect USB. That makes no sense.
Mm-mm.
I could have sworn this did it wirelessly.
What happens if you hold a different button?
Let's try another button.
You'll probably put us in service.
Right? Yep. Not that one. Don't do that. Tony would get really mad if we taught you that.
All right. Well, so
we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that. Yes. Okay. So those are the main settings on that machine and all the other versions. So we have the Luminaire here. So any of the other machines that are going to be bigger, like the larger your touch screen, the larger the space that you have to work with. So we have that same settings button up here at the top. It's the same button on all the different machines. They just put it in a slightly different place each time. They do that just so that it makes it harder for us to tell you where it's at. So we're going to select the settings page here, and you can see that we have a lot of those exact same features on here. On the machine that Lisa was just showing us, we had a little icon of the sewing machine over here. On this machine, we have the icon tabs over here. So if I wanted to fast forward to a different section of the design of the settings menu, so these are like utilitarian type things. Here are like the machine, the language, the light. This would take me to the sewing machine or the embroidery part, and this takes me to the Wi-Fi section, or I can scan through on the different pieces and parts. So again, on this particular machine, I have 13 pages. We
Just a
talked
couple.
a little bit about the width control button before. Again, on this machine here, it's a slightly lighter blue when the option is selected. So we've got that turned off. We've got our presser foot height. Again, you can tell we haven't changed too many things on here because they are still located in that black box. The presser foot pressure on this machine has been turned down to 2. You can tell I've been sewing on it because that's
a Sarah setting right there.
Yeah, where I would turn that button on. Again, we have that automatic fabric sensor system. We have that currently turned off on this machine. So as we are scrolling through the pieces and parts, again, this stuff is exactly the same. We just have a bigger screen that we're looking at. So essentially the larger your embroidery hoop, the larger your screen here becomes as well. So we've got that initial position, we've got the pivoting height, we've got the free motion height. We have a new button on here for the dual feed adjustment. So the walking foot on this machine and on several other machines below this has the feature so that you can adjust the digital dual feed. So that is the option on the machine that adjusts the belt that's driven on the machine. And then we have the automatic presser foot lift. So we can turn those features on and off here. It's still back order.
It's on back order.
The rear handle kit, is that what they're calling about?
I believe so.
Yes, we do not
It's
have
still
an
on back
expected
order.
ship date yet, but it is still on back order.
It's still on the list.
We have our initial stitch page. So a lot of the things that we can do in here are different ways to customize the sewing experience for us. So these 2 icons here, they reference in the sewing side, the startup screen. So we have the utilitarian page, and then we also have the quilt menu. So perhaps if you would like the machine to start with the quilt menu, you might touch this button over here and have that come on when you're in the sewing side. We have our reinforcement priority button that we can turn on and off. Again, this is not different than what we've had on any of the other machines that we've talked about. It's just in a slightly different place. We did talk about that multifunction foot controller foot. This is one of my favorite accessories. We have the ability to do this.
I just wanted to point out, if any of you went to your machine last week after we talked about that wonderful foot and went, I don't have that page. When you buy the foot, when you plug the foot in, it'll show up.
Yes.
So just in case any of you went home and thought something was wrong with your machine, there's not.
No.
That's all it takes.
This will be on your machine on this one, regardless of whether or not you plug it in, but you won't be able to do any of the selection pieces until you've actually plugged the foot in and it knows that it's available. Endpoint sewing and temporary stop. This is a new feature that was built into the Luminaire not too long ago. We had an upgrade maybe last summer. Endpoint sewing is a feature on the machine that if you're sewing decorative stitches and you want to be able to stop at a specific spot, you can put a special sticker on the machine.
It's called the snowball.
Yeah, it's called a snowball because we have snowman stickers.
What up?
No place like home.
There's a class available on the 3rd and the 4th, or the 11th and the 12th.
We
It's
have
a Kimber-Valley vibes.
language, light, screen brightness, upper bobbin thread system, machine speaker volume, and needle position stitch placement. So language is no different. Lighting is no different. We do have a touch screen now So on the previous models, we needed to sort of arrow through to get to the different places. On this one, we can just go through and pick our choice.
I love the drop-down menus.
The drop-down menus are really nice. And then you've got your upper and bobbin thread sensor system on here. So if you turn this feature off, if your thread breaks, your machine will not tell you. If you want to turn your speaker volume down, you can. Needle position, stitch placement. This is one of those weird things. I don't really have any idea why anybody would want a third section on the needle stitch placement. So when you turn this feature
that
on,
kills me when that turns on and I'm like, what is it doing?
right? So if you're used to having needle up, needle down buttons, so you tap the needle up, it goes up, and you tap the needle down and it goes down. What this does is it gives you a third option, which is kind of in between up and down, so that you could see a little bit closer to where the needle is actually going to be on the bottom. But all it does when I turn it on is makes me push the button like 12 times, which is silly because there's only 3 settings, but it's never right for me. So that's what this feature is. And that's what these little icons on the side here are referencing, that instead of having 2 needle positions, this interjects a third one that is in between the 2 normal ones that we're used to seeing. Moving right along here, we have those same settings, the initial screen, the echo mode, the shut off support mode, and the screensaver. Here we can now begin to select the type of mouse pointer that we would have with this machine if we had a mouse plugged into it. You can use a mouse on this machine. It does need to be like a dumb mouse, so
it really does.
Plugged in and not super smart. So if it is like a USB 3
Can't
or
be
it's
a
an
3.
expensive one, it's probably not going to work in here.
And be careful if you buy one like off Amazon or something like that, because it might be too new. You might not know what you're getting, so it may literally still be too new, even if it's not super expensive.
Yes, so make sure it's like old technology. The thing that I would like to point out about shut off support mode here and the echo mode. So these are different features. Again, you can tell the machine sort of to go to sleep after so many minutes, and you can tell it to completely shut the machine off after all of these, after a certain amount of time. The first time I had a machine that had this feature here, I completely forgot that it was off, that it would turn the machine off. So it turns the machine off, but it doesn't turn your button off. So if you're the type of person that just goes to your machine and has really no idea which direction the button turns the machine on, you just turn it the opposite direction, you will turn it off and nothing will happen. The machine,
and you think something's super wrong.
Right. And so then what you keep doing is you keep flipping it 2 times. So you turn it on and then you turn it off really quickly, but you don't turn it on long enough for it to actually
boot up.
So then you think there's something wrong with your machine. So if you do that, pay attention because it could be a problem. You could have one of those days when you're like, crap. So that's what that does, is it turns your machine completely off, right? Kills all of the power, but it doesn't kill, it doesn't adjust.
Obviously, it can't switch the switch.
Right. So pay attention to that piece right here. On this super fancy machine here, we are able to load our own screensaver in if we would like.
One of these days, we're going to totally get a great picture of Jean and put it on all of the machines in the store.
That would be hysterical.
I know, I keep saying that. I've been saying that for years, but it's going to happen one of these days. It's going to happen.
This machine also has a few features that none of our other machines have. We have a projector built into it. So if you think about a projector as the same way you think about going to like a movie theater, here is the brightness of the projector, the background color. You can have it outline the not the embroidery designs, but your sewing stitches so that you can see it a little bit better. You can adjust the color of the pointer, and you can adjust the color of the pointer shape. So those are all going to have to do with your projector. So that's going to be unique to the Luminaire or the Solaris or the Solaris 2 and the Luminaire 2. And then we have our camera needle position settings. So this is where you can go in and calibrate the
kind of like the alignment.
Mm-hmm. And then on, let's wake the screen up again.
Say good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Hello.
Ding, ding, ding.
Almost back.
There
we
we
go.
are.
We're gonna have to fix that.
Yes, we are definitely no sleep on that one. There's a setting somewhere in there too.
And so if you have this particular style machine, if you have a Solaris, we do have an icon on here that unfortunately you will not have on your sewing machine.
Ever big tear.
Scan and cut my connection. This is essentially an upgrade for your machine. And
It really is.
we are going to talk about that someday, but it's not today.
Mm-mm.
And this, again, we have service count and total count, the number of the machine. So if you're going to that iBroidery website, our version that we have here, these two numbers here. So the service count is kind of like the odometer on your car, you know, your trip.
Like your trip.
Yep. You can reset that. And the total count is the count up. So it never changes.
You can't reset that. It
You
will never
can't.
go back to zero.
It will never go back to zero. And if for some reason there is some main power failure on your machine, when you get your new board in, it will still tell you how many total stitches you have on the machine. So that stays with the machine forever. Then we have those same embroidery settings that Lisa was talking about earlier. You will notice that the maximum speed on this one is a little bit faster. So we were at 850 stitches per minute over there. Now we are at 1050. Again, the machine isn't going to stitch consistently at 1050
Nope.
stitches. It is going to ramp up and slow down. All embroidery machines are like that. They're smart in the sense that they can understand that when they're doing certain styles of stitches, they will be able to move a little bit faster than when they're doing other types of stitches. So if it's a running stitch or if it's a tiny satin stitch, it's going to work faster than if it's a giant satin stitch because it takes more time for the needle to move,
Yes, it
swing
does.
left and right.
This is
So-
one of those places that I love the drop down menu for that hoop
Mm-hmm.
option up there.
So
Well, that one too, but
yes.
the one above it was what I was talking about. But I like that you get another option here. You have one more than you
Mhm.
had.
So we have a couple of different choices, and then we have
I love this
Yes.
because I don't have to toggle through them all to find the one that I want.
right. And honestly, the more the bigger your machine is, the more hoops that are
you can-
available for
you
it.
can use. So
The list
the
gets
more
longer.
the more toggling there was. So I
Yes.
loved that when that was like, oh, that's so nice.
Here we have embroidery tension and embroidery foot height. These are really nice features that you have. Lisa and I have mentioned this before. Any setting that you change in this menu is permanent. So it's not a temporary change. It is going to stay like that until
you change it again.
you change it again.
Not permanent in that you can't change it, but permanent in that it won't revert back to default on its own.
That's right. So it stays exactly where you left it until you change it again. It's not something that's going to go away if you turn the machine off and turn it back on. So if you make a change here that you are not intending to be the final
End all that meets all.
That's right. It's not something that you want to do for every single design, every single choice. Then you need to remember to go back and change that, because especially these two features right here, they can make a big
very big
change.
difference in your project. You know, if you're going from a heavy towel to lace,
Right.
big difference.
It is going to make a big difference, and it's really going to affect the overall outcome of your machine.
Absolutely.
If you raise that foot up and now you're doing something thin, it is never going to stitch well while you have that foot raised up. So
Nope,
you definitely
you're going to get that stuff coming up to the foot instead, and you'll get icky stitches.
I'm like sliding off my chair here.
We did talk about that briefly. If you make a change, I just put a sticky note. I don't have to make a note of what it is. I just need the reminder that I changed something,
Mhm.
because that reminder will tell me what it was I changed. I'm going to remember what it is if I remember I did something.
Mhm.
I'll know where to go back to. Be like, oh yeah, I changed the foot height, and then I'll
Yes.
remember to go back in there. So just put something over there to remind you before you start your new project to go back in there and
Yeah, to
reset
make that change again.
and reset you back to default or whatever it is that you need it to be.
And then we have embroidery needle stop position up or down, and embroidery foot auto down. Again, this is defaulted to off on
It
the
is.
machines.
I don't understand that, but
They didn't ask us.
they didn't. Can you
So,
imagine?
If you guys are watching,
Just turn that on at the factory, because
Yes.
everybody wants that.
everybody wants that.
I get the maybe not on the sewing. I don't know why, but on
Everybody
embroidery,
wants that.
everybody wants that on both. But
That's right.
anyway, just leave it on.
Just leave it
don't
on.
don't even have it be an option. It just should do it.
Yes. And embroidery needle position stop. This is one of those things. It doesn't really matter where you're at, if you're up or down, because as soon as it cuts, it's automatically going to go up. And if it's down and you need to move someplace, you have to move it up.
You've got to move it up. So up
really-
is the only one that makes sense in embroidery.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but it doesn't really matter because regardless of what you're going to do, it's going to tell you.
It's going to end up doing what you need it to do
Right.
in the big picture.
And again, we have units, thread colors, thread brand, background color. This is a slightly bigger version than what we were looking at the other side. So when you select this, this is a little bit better picture of what it's actually doing. So on here, if I change this, that is my background of my embroidery screen. So if I had, like Lisa was saying, if we had a white design up there, you can't see white on white. But if I change it to this really good
Well, that's olive right there.
olive, army, drab, green, that will work. But you have many choices. So you can use this for one of two ways. You can use it so that you've got better contrast to your design, or you could use this because if you are unsure maybe how something's going to look on a certain
On
background.
a certain background of like, I'm going to put this on a yellow shirt.
Mhm.
What would it look like? Oh, wow, that does not look very good.
Right. So
Or, ooh, that looks really great.
right.
Or it would look good if I don't put that color in.
Exactly. It can kind of help you audition some of the things that you're doing. And perhaps if you're newer to embroidery or you have a heirloomy type project.
Right.
And
you want to make sure you get it right the first time because there is no second time.
Exactly. So that's what that one is. And then the thumbnail color, again, is a similar concept. When you pull up your embroidery designs, there is a background. It's like white paper back there, and you can see the different embroidery designs. So this changes what the little designs, I don't know why I keep pushing that same color.
Evidently, you like that one
It's
today.
right in
It's right
it's
where
exactly
you can
the same
reach.
spot.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that twice if I tried. But you can change the background. And again, sometimes if you have, like if I have a bunch of lace designs that I'm trying to see, or I have a bunch of quilting designs
Right.
that I'm trying to see, a lot of times they're really hard to see on that white background.
Yep.
Changing that background can allow me to get better
Just
contrast.
see what's happening.
So I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's all about being able to see. We also have the thumbnail size. Again, I don't know why anybody would pick something smaller.
Only reason is to see it so you can see more on screen, but
You can't see,
you
more if
can't
it's
see what
small.
they are. What's the point of seeing more of them?
Exactly.
So
Again,
there you go.
they didn't ask us.
Nope.
And then we have embroidery basting distance. So this here is the distance between the design and your basting box. And the only real reason that you might need to change that would be if you have a design that is taking up all of the space in your hoop.
In your hoop.
So
So if your design was 3.7 by 3.7 and you were trying to keep it in a 4x4 hoop, if you had 0.2 as your basting distance, that would make that design be 3.9 by 3.9. And guess what, guys? That would no longer fit in a 4x4 hoop. So you could lessen that distance and keep it in that 4x4 hoop.
yes,
It's all about math.
it's about math.
There
Nobody
you go.
likes to do math.
Nobody wants to do math.
Because we have camera built in on this machine, we would have background image displayed, the scan quality. The default scan quality on this is actually standard.
It is.
I have changed it. I changed it on mine as well. Part of it's really going to depend on what you're scanning and how
Sometimes
much,
it matters and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But it takes just slightly more time.
Yeah.
Minimal though.
Mhm.
Totally worth it.
Yes. And fabric thickness sensor. So this is a special, if this is on and you go to use your camera, it's going to tell you to put your snowman sticker on. So just keep this off and we'll talk about that another day.
This is not one of those times that Tony's going to come out here and say, you should totally have that on.
Right.
That's not what this one is. That's a different kind of That's a different bear.
It is. And then embroidery foot with LED pointer adjustment. This is the embroidery foot that has the plug in to the back of the machine because we have the camera.
We have the projector. So this particular drop is projected down on the Dreams, 52s, 52 if you get it, 51 if you buy it, 62s, Unities, those came with that plug-in. The Dreams, the Destinies, 1 and 2s, those came with that plug-in drop light. So if you have that, this would be the adjustment and the calibration for those as well. It is available to purchase,
but not needed.
But not needed if you don't have it, especially on this guy here, because of course there's a projector. That's a new one. I made that one up just now. You like that?
Yes. So again, if you have it, you can use it. If you really liked it, you could get it. It's a super expensive foot. You have other avenues that you can use on here. We have wireless. This is all the same as it was on the machine that Lisa just showed. It's basically where you're going to set that feature up. Over here, we have the auto download, the update manually. On this one here, if I wanted to check to see if there was an update, if we hit this button, it would look for the update. It's not, there is no update available. We're up it, so it didn't go anywhere. I would have a little exclamation point at the top button, at these little
like we did over here. It would look just like that, but a little bit bigger because that button's bigger.
Absolutely.
And then this page is only on a luminaire that has been connected with my connection. So just because you do an update doesn't mean you will have page 13. Page 13 only happens after you've registered the code that comes with the My Connection, which is only gotten with buying one of the new Scanicas.
Yes. So there you have it. That is all of our settings pages, how you kind of work in and out and around.
I know we're like right at 4:30, but pop over to embroidery and really? Yeah, I think that was it. And just throw something on screen and show them the color, because we talked about the differences in thread charts. Edit and then hit your spool.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
So here is the edit, and
so we talked about different spool color amounts of colors. You'll see that one says embroidery right there, and that one has, what is it, 64, I think, or something like that. If you scroll to something else, there is lots more colors. Like if you go to Floriani, there's 360 colors in the Floriani chart, which is also available there. So when you go to select different things, it really does matter what thread chart you have in there, depending upon what it is that you're looking for. If you're trying to match to a thread chart, then of course you want to choose that. If you are looking for, I just want it to say white, brown, red, or green, then that basic one is the easiest because it just has only a few to choose from. And if you are trying to choose a color that is going to enable you to create a cut file, you also need to be in that base.
Yeah, there's so many colors.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference in those thread charts. And I had said I would explain that. So I just wanted to real quick. But there at that bottom there, it shows the
it's hard to see the icons,
I know you can't see the icon. There's little scissors on that one. We've talked about it in the past. But that one would enable you to create a cut file. So you do need to be in one of those original embroidery charts if you're trying to do that. So sorry, I didn't mean to make us go over even longer. Wanted to keep my word. I said I would explain it. So there you go.
So that is basically settings in a nutshell. All of the machines basically have, everybody has if it was on a lower end model machine, you have it
plus. It's just as you go up. So once we leave the 6x10s and we get into the 7x12s or the 8x12s, that bar of settings it's at the bottom of the screen, but we have a larger screen but you still have the same settings button and all of those same pieces are going to be on there. So it's just a matter of knowing what those settings are enabling you to do and where to find them.
Yes.
But that's it. There you go.
Mhm.
So I think we've hit the main settings for all of the machines. Hopefully I don't see anybody popping up with any questions. So I'm going to stab that we've answered everybody's. And want to stab?
Yeah.
Yeah. No?
No.
Guess not. She doesn't want me to stab her.
No stabbing
No
today.
stabbies.
No. But you know, hopefully that was helpful for you and not boring.
No. Lots of buttons on some of these machines, and it does sometimes get confusing and overwhelming where to find something.
Mhm.
So there are certainly more settings as you go, and there's other things that we could probably confuse and overwhelm you with, but we'll meet those one-on-ones when you come in for your lessons.
Mhm.
So I think this will close out our settings.
Yes.
And then next week we'll tackle I don't know what.
Something else.
We'll tackle something else, and we'll see you there.
Yes.
So,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us. You guys have a great rest of your week.
Let me find the right button.
Find the right button. Stay warm. It's nice and sunny, but it's not super warm. So
No, it's not.
stay warm out there and
Bye.
enjoy the blankets, because I know I love blankets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good blanket?
I don't know. I'm surprised you do.
I like my house cold so I can use them.
That's a good point. I
Bye,
like
guys.
mine still warm and still have blankets. So. Bye.